You feel it every single day. That sensation of being completely underwater, deadlines stacking up, your phone never going silent, your to-do list growing faster than you can shrink it, and somehow, at the end of every exhausting day, you crawl into bed feeling like you accomplished almost nothing that actually mattered. Sound familiar? What if I told you that the problem has almost nothing to do with how many hours are in your day? I have spent years studying how people use their time, and what I keep finding over and over again is that most people are not struggling because life is too full. They are struggling because they are living without direction. And today, that changes for you. Here is the uncomfortable truth that most productivity advice completely skips over. Time is not something you manage. Time is something you are made of. Every single hour that passes is a piece of your actual life, gone permanently. You cannot recover it, you cannot store it, you cannot negotiate for more of it. When you genuinely internalize that fact, not just understand it intellectually, but feel it in your chest, your relationship with your days transforms completely. You stop treating your hours like loose change you can afford to drop. You start treating them like something sacred. So why does everything feel so chaotic, even when you are working constantly? There are three root causes, and once you see them clearly, you cannot unsee them. The first cause is motion without meaning. Picture someone who fills every hour with activity. They are replying, scrolling, attending, running, checking, answering. Their calendar looks packed. Their energy is depleted by noon. But if you sit them down at the end of the day and ask, what actually moved forward in your life today? They go quiet. That silence is the problem. Activity is not the same as advancement. When there is no clear sense of what truly matters, the brain treats everything as equally urgent, and you spend your entire day sprinting in every direction at once while covering almost no real ground. The second cause is permanent reaction mode. Think honestly about how your typical morning unfolds. The moment your eyes open, your hand reaches for your phone. Notifications appear, messages demand responses. Other people's priorities land in your lap before you have even decided what your own priorities are. When you begin every day by reacting to the world around you, you hand the steering wheel to everyone except yourself. You end up living someone else's schedule inside your own life. That is why it feels exhausting. Reacting drains you. Choosing energizes you. The third cause is confusing movement with progress. This one is subtle but devastating. You can be extraordinarily busy and make zero forward movement. A hamster on a wheel is moving constantly. It is covering no distance. Many people are living that exact experience, and they interpret the exhaustion as evidence that they are working hard enough. They are. They're just working hard in the wrong directions. Now, here's the real foundation underneath all of this: clarity. When you know precisely what matters to you, distractions lose their grip. Saying no becomes natural. Focus arrives without force. Life does not get simpler because you find extra hours hiding somewhere. It gets simpler because you stop pouring your hours into things that do not move you forward. Consider this honestly. If you discovered you had exactly 1 year left to live, would you spend 2 hours tonight scrolling through content you will forget by morning? Would you postpone that skill you've been meaning to develop? Would you stay stuck in situations that drain your energy simply because change feels uncomfortable? Almost certainly not. You would become fiercely protective of every single day. The powerful realization is that none of us actually know our timeline, so the only rational response is to start living with that kind of intentionality right now. Not someday, not after things calm down, now. Let's get into the practical side, because understanding the problem is only valuable if it leads to action. Here are the strategies that actually work, and I want you to apply at least one of them starting today. The first strategy is winning your morning before the world gets to you. Most people lose their entire day before 9 in the morning, and they don't even realize it. When you wake up late, your first emotion is urgency.
You rush, you skip thinking, you grab your phone and absorb whatever the algorithm decided to show you, and suddenly your mental state is reactive, distracted, and behind before you've even eaten breakfast. Compare that to this. Someone sets their alarm an hour earlier than usual. No notifications, no social media, no noise from the outside world. They sit with a cup of coffee and simply think. They write down what matters today. They read something useful for 20 minutes. Maybe they do a short workout or take a brief walk. By the time most people are waking up in a panic, this person has already invested in their own development. After a year of that pattern, the difference between these two people is staggering. Not because one is smarter or more talented, because one chose to own the first hour. You don't need to dramatically shift your wake time overnight. Start with 30 minutes earlier than your current habit. Protect that window fiercely. No phone, no reacting, no doing things for other people. Use it only for yourself. Those 30 minutes multiplied across a full year add up to more than 180 hours of focused personal development. That's not a small thing. That's a life-altering amount of time. The second strategy is protecting your focus like it's the most valuable thing you own, because it genuinely is. Here's something most people don't realize about their brain. It can't actually do two things at once at any meaningful level of depth. What feels like multitasking is actually rapid task switching, and every single switch carries a cost. Neuroscience research consistently shows that after an interruption, it can take anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes to fully return to the depth of focus you had before the disruption. So, if you're interrupting yourself every 10 minutes, you never actually reach deep focus at all. You skim across the surface of your work all day, feeling tired but producing far less than you're capable of. Think about the last time you sat down to do something genuinely important, a project, a study session, something that required real thinking. How long before something pulled your attention away? A notification, a sound, a quick check that turned into 15 minutes gone. That's the cycle that makes people feel permanently behind. The solution is to create protected blocks of time where interruption is simply not allowed. Notifications off, phone in another room. If necessary, let the people around you know you are unavailable for a defined window. Work in focused bursts of 45 to 60 minutes, then take a genuine break and repeat. 2 uninterrupted hours per day, protected consistently, adds up to more than 700 hours annually. That's a masterclass worth of learning. That's an entire side project brought to completion. That's real, compounding progress. The third strategy is using a task list that actually serves you instead of overwhelming you. Most people write lists that are essentially anxiety in written form. 20 items of wildly different importance and urgency, all jumbled together, with no indication of which ones actually move the needle on your future. Then they spend the day checking off the easiest, lowest impact tasks first, because it feels satisfying, while the genuinely important work gets pushed to tomorrow, then the next day, then next week.
Here is a better system. Your brain is not built to hold everything in memory simultaneously. Trying to keep your entire task load in your head creates a constant background noise of mental pressure. Writing everything down silences that noise and gives you the gift of clarity. Once everything is written, sort your tasks into 2 buckets. The first bucket contains future-building tasks, meaning things that genuinely improve your life over time. Learning a new skill, working on a meaningful project, investing in your health, developing a relationship that matters. The second bucket contains maintenance tasks, meaning things that need to happen but do not change your trajectory. Errands, routine messages, administrative work. Both buckets matter, but they are absolutely not equal. If you treat them as equal, your days fill up, but your life stays in place. Each morning or the night before, identify your top 3. These are the 3 tasks from your future-building bucket that matter most today. Commit to completing those before you touch anything else.
This single habit alone, done consistently, will change your experience of each day within a few weeks. You will go to sleep feeling genuinely accomplished instead of simply exhausted. The fourth strategy is time blocking, which is the practice of assigning specific tasks to specific windows of time rather than vaguely hoping you will find a moment to get to them. There is an enormous psychological difference between telling yourself you will work on something today and telling yourself you will work on it from 9 to 10:30 this morning. The first is a wish, the second is an appointment, and appointments actually happen. When you leave your schedule open and unstructured, your brain defaults to whatever feels easiest or most stimulating in the moment. Social media, casual conversation, small tasks that give you a quick sense of accomplishment. Structure removes that temptation by answering the question of what you should be doing right now before the moment arrives. You do not have to decide under pressure. The decision is already made. Someone who wants to learn a language, for example, can spend months telling themselves they will practice when they have time. That time rarely materializes, but when they block 20 minutes every day at a specific hour, it becomes as automatic as brushing their teeth. After 90 days, their progress is real and visible. After a year, they have a skill they can be genuinely proud of. The only difference between the two outcomes is the presence of intentional structure. The fifth strategy is planning tomorrow the night before. Most people stumble into their mornings without any clear plan, and they pay for it immediately. An unplanned morning feels like walking into a crowded room where everyone is shouting requests at you simultaneously. You default to whatever grabs your attention first, which is almost never your highest priority. Spending 5 to 7 minutes the night before to plan the next day eliminates that chaos. Write down your top 3 priorities, decide what the very first task of your morning will be, create a rough shape for the day without needing to schedule every minute perfectly. This simple ritual does something powerful. It allows your brain to feel a sense of certainty about tomorrow before you sleep. You wake up with direction instead of confusion, and that difference in your mental starting point compounds across every hour of your day. Consider someone managing work, family obligations, and a personal goal they are trying to make progress on. Without a night plan, mornings become reactive scrambles, and the personal goal consistently gets deprioritized. With a night plan, they carve out a specific window for their goal before the demands of the day take over. The goal stops being something they hope to get to and becomes something they actually do. The sixth strategy is designing an intentional year rather than simply surviving 1 month at a time. This is the strategy that separates people who look back on a year feeling like they grew from people who look back wondering where the time went. Without a directional plan for the year, your time gets allocated by default to whatever is loudest, most urgent, or most demanding. Problems get handled, distractions get indulged, but meaningful progress on what actually matters to you rarely happens by accident. Choose 3 goals for your year, not 10, not 20, 3. More than that creates the same problem as an overwhelming task list. Confusion masquerades as ambition, and nothing gets the focus it deserves. Your 3 goals should cover the areas of life that matter most to you. Perhaps 1 involves your career or a skill you want to develop, 1 involves your health, 1 involves your financial situation or a creative pursuit. With 3 clear goals, you have direction. Then break each goal into monthly targets so the path from where you are now to where you want to be becomes visible and walkable rather than abstract and overwhelming. Then, and this is the part most people skip, identify the daily habit that will actually deliver each goal. Goals are not achieved through occasional bursts of intense effort. They are achieved through small, consistent actions that accumulate over time. 20 minutes of daily exercise matters far more than 3-hour sessions twice a month. 30 minutes of focused learning every day builds a skill far faster than marathon sessions on weekends. Choose the habit, protect the habit, and trust the process.
The seventh strategy is applying what is known as the 2-minute rule to dismantle procrastination before it can take root. Here's something important to understand about why we avoid tasks. It is rarely because the task itself is too large. It is because the task feels heavy, and the brain's natural response to heaviness is avoidance. That avoidance leads to delay. Delay leads to guilt. Guilt amplifies the sense of being overwhelmed, and suddenly a task that would have taken 2 hours is carrying the emotional weight of a mountain. The 2-minute rule works in 2 ways. For small tasks, if something can be completed in under 2 minutes, do it immediately rather than adding it to a mental pile. Small tasks postponed create disproportionate mental weight. For larger tasks, commit to working on them for just 2 minutes, not to finish them, simply to begin. Open the document, write your first sentence, do the first 5 minutes of the workout. Because starting is the hardest part, and once started, momentum takes over in ways that motivation alone never could. Imagine someone who has a significant report due at the end of the week. The document sits blank on their screen for 2 days while they busy themselves with smaller tasks. The avoidance does not make the report smaller, it makes it feel bigger. Apply the 2-minute rule. The instruction becomes simply write your opening paragraph right now. That's the only goal. Once the document is no longer blank, something fundamentally shifts. The task transforms from an abstract threat into something concrete and manageable. 2 minutes of action destroys the fear that days of avoidance had been feeding.
The eighth strategy is shifting from outcome-focused goals to process-focused goals, which is one of the most meaningful changes you can make in how you pursue anything. Most people set goals defined entirely by results: lose a certain amount of weight, earn a specific income, reach a particular milestone. The problem with outcome goals is that outcomes are only partially within your control. Market conditions change, life interrupts, progress is nonlinear. When you are only measuring yourself against results, every day that the result has not arrived feels like failure, and that feeling erodes consistency. Process goals, on the other hand, are entirely within your control. Rather than focusing on the outcome of becoming fluent in another language, focus on the daily process of practicing for 30 minutes. Rather than fixating on a specific income figure, focus on showing up for 2 hours of deep, focused work on your craft every single day. You control the input. When you consistently deliver the input, the output typically follows. And in the meantime, you are building identity. You become someone who shows up daily. That identity is more valuable than any single result. The ninth strategy is single-tasking with genuine commitment. In a world that celebrates busyness and romanticizes multitasking, choosing to do one thing at a time feels almost rebellious. But single-tasking is consistently where your best work lives. Deep focus is the state where learning accelerates, where creative thinking happens, where problems get solved rather than just managed. Scattered attention produces scattered results. Concentrated attention produces breakthroughs. Before any important work session, make one decision. For this period of time, I do only this one thing. Remove every switching trigger you can. Notifications eliminated, irrelevant tabs closed, your work environment clear. When your mind wanders toward distractions, gently redirect it without self-judgment. The goal is simply to stay with one thing long enough to reach genuine depth. That depth is where everything worthwhile gets built. The ninth strategy is learning to delegate with wisdom rather than insisting on doing everything yourself. Many capable, driven people are completely exhausted, not because their ambitions are too large, but because they have decided that their involvement is required in every single task. This belief feels responsible. It is actually a growth ceiling. When your energy is spread across every level of activity, from the most trivial administrative tasks to the most consequential decisions, you have no fuel left for the work that only you can do. Examine your week honestly. Write down everything you are spending time on.
For each item, ask yourself whether it genuinely requires your unique skills and attention, whether someone else could handle it, or whether it perhaps does not need to happen at all. Outsource what drains you. Automate what is repetitive. Eliminate what is simply noise. Concentrate your best energy on the work that moves your life forward in ways nothing else can. Here is where we land. Every strategy in this video points toward the same underlying truth. You do not have a time problem. You have a clarity and intention problem. When you know what matters, when you protect your focus, when you start your day with direction rather than reaction, when you plan your year with genuine purpose, life does not feel busy anymore. It feels purposeful, and purposeful is a completely different experience. The people who accomplish extraordinary things over the course of their lives are not the ones who had more hours than everyone else. They're the ones who decided that the hours they had were not going to be wasted on fear, distraction, or drift. They chose intentionality every single day, including the days when it was hard, including the days when nothing seemed to be working. You have that same choice available to you right now. Pick one strategy from today and implement it before you go to sleep tonight. Just one, then add another next week. Small, consistent actions, compounding over time, are what transform ordinary days into an extraordinary life. If this shifted something in how you think about your time, do us both a favor and hit the like button because it genuinely helps more people find this content. Subscribe if you want to keep thinking more clearly and living more intentionally. And drop a comment below telling me which strategy you are starting with today. I read every single one. Now, go take your time back.